The 5-minute gun. Race 1 America's Cup 2003. This just the 31st time in 152 years.
Probably fairly tight left would be the ideal, so that we can get rid of them.
International sport's oldest prize has gone on the line.
Yeah.
And right away we hear Murray Jones suggesting that tight left is where they want to get off the line.
Murray Jones on Alinghi. So they're running deep in the box. Alinghi getting below them. So it'll be Team New Zealand to come into the dial up first. So Team New Zealand out to the left. Alinghi slow, and they're not coming into the dial up. So now it is Team New Zealand that is holding on to port, and Alinghi trying to get on their tail. What do you make of that, Ian?
Well, it's pretty windy, Peter. Dialing up in this condition, there's a lot of bad things that can happen to you on board, not let alone what happens against the other competitors. So it's probably a smart move to just go on and get into circling. Although not the best circle from Alinghi. They got a little stalled coming out of the tack, and Team New Zealand may have a chance to get ahead in the circling by spinning right around into attack here.
Well, we'll see whether or not Team New Zealand can circle, how quickly they tack, how quickly they accelerate. All those questions. It's Team New Zealand to their left, Alinghi to the right.
Very even starting line at this. Even.
Wow, I'm impressed with the first circle by Team New Zealand. They were able to handle the turn down very easily. They didn't stall at all. Of course, a lot of it has to do with the timing that you hit waves as you're tacking and turning down. But they look good. They look nice right there.
The Amiga clock clicks off at 3 minutes.
Just come out to attacking lay line.
On port.
Like the right,
going deep into the box. And they're going out to the right, down to leeward of race control.
1 minute to kill. So
heavy
sound left, but we don't really want to.
Team New Zealand, how they tried to get away, and
we don't really want to
them
start
down.
like at the left
and now it's just a timing game. Alinghi's sailing away. They'll turn back when it's about time for a final run, but giving themselves enough extra time to be able to push Team New Zealand hard if they choose to cut Alinghi off on the way in.
So just in front of Dean Barker is Tony Ray, who's on board the winning Team New Zealand crew in 1995-2000.
I see Alinghi turning there very slowly, trying to suck Team New Zealand into following them down there. But Team New Zealand didn't bite. They're going to go up and tack. A very strong position as long as the boats aren't too early. We heard that Alinghi was asking for a tight left start, so we'll watch for them to slow the game up and try to move up towards Team New Zealand. And they'll try to tempt Team New Zealand into coming down and pushing down the line.
145.
I'd say about.
Both boats have at least 40 seconds to kill to get to the line here. And here comes Team New Zealand with their first push. Alinghi, being a little conservative, turns down early to make sure to keep that gap between the boats.
It's okay, it's okay here.
Team New Zealand's going for the hook here.
He's up, he's up, he's up! 1 minute to go.
Charlie Loomis on the bow of Team New Zealand, calling to Dean Barker at 110.
There's still 20 or 25 seconds to kill here, DJ, so we've got to slow it down one more time.
2 turns on it only.
1 minute.
Can't come down here.
You can see the boats that are not fully trimmed in. The sails are a little bit twisted out, slowing down just slightly. Now they're getting closer to being on time, but still about 10 or 12 seconds to kill. Team New Zealand's got the pedal down pretty hard.
40 seconds on the Amiga clock.
Lean to a little bit right.
Team New Zealand in the windward position. It's Alinghi down to leeward. Alinghi tightly back up the right spot.
At the moment, PJ, we're seeing a little bit of a right-hand shift, which is going to make that right-hand side of the line look better. But Team New Zealand, in my eyes, still looks just a little bit early. We've got to watch out, not be over early here.
And 15 seconds. 12.
We're a little slower.
10 seconds.
Here they go.
10 seconds. Now they're powering up. It's Team New Zealand in the win position. The position. Alinghi down to leeward and ahead. So now, for the first time, they line up in a drag race out to the left. Who's footing higher? Who's pointing higher? Who's footing faster?
Quick, rough water.
Okay. Looks like a quarter right into.
Those are the questions in this trial of strength. As both boats are locked together in a drag race out to the left.
Boy, Pete, if Dean Barker and his team are at all faster, this is going to be a very, very strong position to come off the line in. But if it's equal or they're maybe a fraction slower, they're going to have to tack away shortly.
Russell Coots is looking out, and the early advantage goes to Team New Zealand. Team New Zealand by 7-8 metres. Coots looking over his shoulder. He was anxious. The advantage with Team New Zealand out to the right.
And it's
12,
growing.
13 metres.
It's growing. We can see
Team
it
New
growing.
Zealand are living there.
It's not only, they're not only going forward, Peter, they're slightly pointing higher. They're looking very, very strong, Team New Zealand at the moment.
Team New Zealand is lifting off
Big
Alinghi.
waves here though, Russell, look. Bad set just here.
That is the perspective that we've got. Sitting down to leeward here. We are right down within 50 metres of the stern of the
Okay, flat water here.
And Team New Zealand is bow up. It's out to 18 metres. And Team New Zealand is living there.
And Peter, I'm watching the boat sail very closely here.
Going forward slightly.
Mainsail on the Swiss boat is going inside out
A little bit of boat there.
than the Team New Zealand boat on average. Team New Zealand looks a little bit more comfortable in the
Going
waves.
well.
They don't seem to be pitching or hobby horsing quite as much. Nice steady motion to the boat. They really look comfortable.
Just get it under our groove, slightly high and we'll be
Boat's
fine.
starting to get a little bit of a left-hand shift now, just 2 or 3 degrees since they started. Team New Zealand seems comfortable so far. 22.5 knots of wind speed we've got right now. Wind direction is 200.
Closing the range a little bit here.
Closing the range. That's the voice of Brad Butterworth. On Alinghi.
Similar speed, a touch higher.
Nice mode here, Russell.
Just
Both teams will be
take up on
settled
the
down
brace
now
for the
and
new
trying their
tech.
hardest, obviously. But
Yeah, that's good.
Nice mode.
the key is that they've gotten rid of that pre-start adrenaline rush, and now they're locked into seeing if they can just get that last little bit of horsepower out of the
Couple of
boat,
bad
that last little
waves.
bit of edge.
Quite bad.
And it does look closer now. The gain that Team New Zealand was making seems to have stopped, and it's more equal. Another 3 or 4 degrees left-hand shift. There, we're back to a little bit more even match there. As you can see, the left-hand shift has benefited Alinghi, but not nearly enough to get across Team New Zealand. Team New Zealand can live in that spot. They can push Alinghi all the way to the edge of the race course.
Oh, what a sight. Race 1. America's Cup 2003. It is Team New Zealand in the windward position. They're holding and hanging in there. Alinghi has not been able to squeeze the black boat.
Nice mode there.
Well, we see the body language on board. Peter, the Dean Barker trying to will his boat forward.
Right for his early assessment. Stars and Stripes tactician Tom Whidden. What do you make of it?
Well, wonderful day out here, PJ. The boat's fairly even. I'd have to give a little edge to Team New Zealand so far. Brilliant start, by the way. Wonderful timing back to the line.
There's an awful lot of water here as they're starting to bail furiously. Ed.
Wow, that does look unusual. It seems like they've done it before. They got the bucket going there, but they've been pushing hard forward on this boat to try and get over the top of Alinghi. That does not look normal at all, though, Peter. Look at the water coming in from the leeward side. Of course, it seems to be that the boats are slowly getting closer sideways. 195 degrees is our wind direction now, still 20.5 knots. We've seen about a 10-degree left-hand shift since the start, and our radar up the course tells us that might go as far as another 5 or 10 degrees left at a maximum up the race course, but we're sort of in the middle of the breeze range. That does not look correct to me, though.
Right, another interested spectator here on board North Star, Paul Kayard. What did you make of the start, and what do you make of what you can see right now?
Well, like Tom said, awesome timing by both teams, hitting the line at speed, right at the gun. But that water problem on Team New Zealand there looks pretty serious to me, and whatever advantage they had, I guess, went away a little bit with the left shift, but maybe they're slowing down a little bit.
Okay, the relative, can you see whether or not they're holding station or?
Well, here we go. I mean, they got this looks like the Southern Ocean, Peter. I mean, this is the liquid Himalayas on the Haraki Go. But, you know, it's pretty close. We're not having anybody walk away from anybody here. This is great. So far, it looks like it's shaping up to be an awesome match.
And Paul, this is at the top end of the scale, isn't it? We've got 22 knots at the moment. That means it'll be plus 25 at the top of the rig.
Yeah, this is right at the top. You know, another thing that you look for is if they can control the mainsail. Is the mainsail flapping or is it set? Right now, both boats have the main set. Alinghi's just went inside out there. To me, it looks like Team New Zealand's better able to keep their mainsail set on the average than Alinghi. But the gauge is closing a lot, Peter.
And Paul, it's a different mode that they're sailing in. It looks like Alinghi is sailing with Traveler up and a slightly more twist on the mainsail, where Team New Zealand has Traveler down and the mainsail tighter. And in fact, here goes Team New Zealand having to tack away.
Yeah, I think that was a good observation, for sure. But Alinghi got to him, closed the gauge up.
All right, so translate as we talk about the gauge, it means the separation between the two boats. As Team New Zealand now has tacked away, they've got onto port, and it is Alinghi who is holding on to starboard.
Yeah, in essence, that let Alinghi out of jail because the power of the right off the line is the starboard tack advantage Team New Zealand had. They could have held on for another 5 minutes. They would have had Alinghi quite far out to the left side of the course, but now Alinghi's essentially out of jail.
It's been a fascinating drag out to the left with both boats locked bow to bow. Team New Zealand with a marginal advantage of 1 metre 2, 3 or 5, maybe up to 12, 14 metres at one stage. Team New Zealand taking on an awful lot of water. What a fascinating situation we have at this stage, halfway up the first big leg on race 1, America's Cup 2003.
Pressure on your bow here, a little head if possible.
Race 1 of the America's Cup, Team New Zealand and Alinghi separated by 70-odd metres now. And real interest for us. We haven't seen Team New Zealand racing, of course, before, but to see that amount of water they're taking on, Peter Lesser, that's got eyebrows raised everywhere. Obviously, it's happened before. The bucket's ready and the guys are bailing frantically, but, gee, unusual.
I'm a bit staggered that to see so much water in the cockpit of Team New Zealand and then one of the crewmen having to get in there with a bucket to bail it out. Now, two things happen. One, when you take that amount of water on boat, that will affect the performance of the boat, but more importantly, the distraction to the afterguard of someone having to get in there and mechanically bail the water out of the boat. I'm staggered that the boat takes on that amount of water. Normally, when water comes on board, there's a first cross going to be coming up. They're about 800 metres apart, but normally with water on board, there is a bailer system, self-bailers, that will in fact drain the cockpit of water that's in the cockpit area, but the bailers weren't handling that amount of volume.
Close. I've got it. That's just crossing at the moment.
Coming up to the first cross, Team New Zealand on the right with the blue trail. At this stage, Alinghi just ahead. They look like they may just cross in front of Team New Zealand. It's the Kiwis that will have the starboard tack right of way. And here we've got a problem with the outhaul on Team New Zealand. That is way easy. That should not be out like that. Look at the bottom of the sail bagging there. This is costing them a lot. There would appear to be a failure on the outhaul system on Team New Zealand. This is expensive as Alinghi comes across on port tack. They look like they're going to cross ahead. Team New Zealand under all sorts of pressure in this first race. Alinghi there looking composed. They are going to cross ahead comfortably. Team New Zealand needs to get this boat under control.
Problems on Team New Zealand.
I think they got a foot
A
problem.
lot of water in the cockpit, and now the outhaul has slipped in, making the bottom of the sail a camber very deep. Now the outhaul's controlled by a hydraulic ram, so it'll appear there that, well, it looks like the outboard end of the main boom, that new innovation that we've seen there, has broken. So the outboard end is broken. Mechanical failure early on in race number 1.
You can see there on the boom that black fitting hanging off the corner of the sail is actually the outhaul car, and the carbon fibre is just shattered on the end of the boom.
Can you get
So
the boom back through the
high-concept
nappy? Through the small ring, you'd be out have to be sailing all day. Really,
Oh, big time, John, big time. You can see there how deep the mainsail foot is, and this will absolutely be detrimental to the performance, but more importantly, they've got to try and get the mechanics of the outhaul into a configuration that they can sail. I think Team New Zealand are in big trouble with their boom at the moment. They'll be just trying to figure out the contingency to make a repair, but this looks serious.
Yeah. Only about 2 minutes the other way.
The end of the boom has literally snapped off. That black bit we can see on the end of the sail is in fact the end of the boom. And you can see the shattered fiberglass or carbon fibre there by Adam Beashaw.
We're going to have to use it on the load.
And in this much wind, that's a major problem. A lot of discussion on board.
Well, there's now big decisions to be made on board this boat, NZL 82. Looking very sharp at the start. They're taking on all that water. That's the least of their problems now. And Alinghi has the advantage. Leg 1, race 1 of the America's Cup.
Going to have an increase in pressure here.
Well, let's go back just a little bit on this leg. We saw NZL 82. We were talking about the trouble they were having with the boom, with the water coming on board, and things were really looking bad for them. And then all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. And there, another major problem for Team New Zealand. And this has only just happened out on the Hauraki Gulf. That's 3, it seems, major problems that have occurred on board Team New Zealand in the opening 15 minutes of this race. And Team New Zealand has now taken down the headsail. As you can see, they're turning. They're out of this race now. And it has been a catastrophe for Team New Zealand in race 1. Now we're back live on board Team New Zealand. And gosh, Peter Lester, we talk about reliability, don't we, of equipment, and that's not something that ever really happens to Team New Zealand.
Well, looks like everything compounded on itself, and 3 major problems on board. The crew, new Genoa up on deck, and they're putting it into the head foil quite hard to get it all, the mechanics sorted out, but an absolute disaster for Team New Zealand in race 1.
Well, Peter Montgomery out there on board North Star, right up where the action is. And after that powerful start, when Team New Zealand looked good, it's all turned to custard, hasn't it?
Yes, it certainly has, and I'm very surprised on the basis we've got 20-22, 3 knots of wind. We know Team New Zealand has been out here in days much higher than that, closer to 30, and they know very well that reliability wins races. And they knew the forecast, they would know what's going on, and to have the end of the boom break, and then, well, they've ripped the head foil in.
Well, it looks like they've actually pulled the sail right out of the head foil. It looked like the tack broke, and then the thing just zipped out of the head foil, which is a pretty common occurrence when the tacks come off. But they're having trouble getting it reinstalled, which tells me there may be some further damage. They're going to try to keep going, but boy, it's not going to be a powerful position to race from.
Well, they're wounded and they're struggling to stay on the basis that maybe Alinghi will have some gear problems and stay in the race. But really, Alinghi will be able to pull back a little.
Well, Alinghi will have backed off already. They would have taken their running backstays down to about 20% of or 20% off of the tension they would normally have been running. And here, look, the same problem again. Peter, it's pulling right out of the head foil. At least if the tack can hold on, they'll be able to get the sail on board without turning downwind too far. There come the guys getting it on, bringing the sail on board again. But the head foil has been damaged now, and if it's not a double head foil, which sometimes these teams will go out and only use a single foil to try and save weight and reduce windage. If it doesn't have a secondary foil to work with, then the new sail is just going right up in the old damaged section, and it's not going to work.
So this business of saving weight can be self-defeating in the end, can't it?
Well, it definitely can. We've seen 2 issues of it, at least one we know about. One's the boom. And that breaking, I'm so surprised that that's happened after 6 months of sailing with these booms out here. We've seen them out a lot with this equipment. And it's just horrible luck to have this happen.
Just put it back on so we don't fuck the...
Well, the boom is a different shape and construction, and they have put it under rigorous loads and tests. So now it's all plain sailing for Alinghi, set to go 1 up in this 31st match for the America's Cup.
Well, here's the deal. They've still got to make it around the track without having a catastrophe of their own.
They aren't under the same pressure. They won't have the boat under the same loads. Mark 1, Race 1, America's Cup 2003. And the immediate clock starts ticking, but really that's academic. Because Alinghi is way out on their own. As a wounded Team New Zealand are trying to put the pieces together to at least try and complete the course. Lovely set up on Alinghi. Race hardened. Meanwhile, look at the boom. What? It's not meant to do that.
Well, as they tacked right there, you saw the weight of the boom trying to fall down, and that's because they have a soft boom bang. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the line that attaches the boom to the mast and keeps it from going up too high in the air downwind is called the boom bang. It's just in the forward part of the diagonal line in the forward part of the picture right there. And because it's a soft bang, just a piece of line, when they tack, the boom has some weight, and it's just going to drop down on the boat. We saw one of the team members holding it up there so nobody got hit in the head as it went across. You can see that a little bit of the bottom of the sail there is torn. That's really a sacrificial strip. That's not affecting the integrity of the sail, but they've got to get it going just to get going in a straight line. They've got to work real hard with this thing not working correctly. And there's no issue on board Alinghi. The bowman just went out to the tip of the pole and sort of a standard procedure. The lazy sheet over the top of the pole for the upcoming jibe. Brad Butterworth looks calm and collected there, as you would with this sort of an advantage.
And the irony of all this is, of course, during the Challenger Series, there was a cap of 19 knots. They would not have started today in this weighted breeze. And yet, it is the defender that has suffered the damage, not the Challenger.
Oh, and they look to me, Peter, like they're getting ready to pull the plug on this whole thing. They're not moving, the mainsail's luffing. They're going to try and avoid further damage, it appears.
Yes, that's the point. If they keep persisting like this, they could do much more damage. It's not a question of ripping a couple of sails. They've got more of those. But we hear that the tender is coming in to help them, and it looks as though Team New Zealand has withdrawn from this first race, America's Cup 2003. Well, there's the line. That's it.
Just keep going forward with it and get on the ute.
What a shame.
Team New Zealand is out of the race.
What a shame, Peter. This is just a terrible way to start a series.
a little wine, please.
But they'll go and repair this. They'll get it ready for tomorrow, and they'll come out with actually probably less pressure on themselves because they'll feel, all right, we got this stuff out of the way, let's move on.
Really good breeze
So
coming
much an
on.
anticlimax for Team New Zealand and its legion of supporters out on the water. So much expected.
I got it.
82, 82. Race committee, go ahead. Roger, thanks. I've got that message.
Well, the message there in communication with NZL 82. I'm not sure, we couldn't hear exactly what it was, but I'm sure it was just along the lines of that's us, we're finished for the day.
I suspect so, John. And of course, Harold Bennett, he's just got to keep going. The race will continue for Alinghi. But what a series of disasters.
Looks like a disaster zone, doesn't it? So let's go back then, Peter. What we saw a good even start and Team New Zealand looking strong, taking the right-hand side. We saw that they were taking on quite an amount of water as we watch now Alinghi sailing alone the first downwind leg, and unless there's a disaster befalls her as well, it'll be 1-0 to Alinghi. So then we saw the water coming on board, which shocked. I know both you and Glenn were sitting there with your mouths open, wondering what happened. Then we had a problem with the boom here, and then they were just trying to do some adjustments with that when we see the headsail go as well.
Well, basically the headsail has come out of the foil. Ed called it as a tack problem, but I'm not sure if the actual head foil, which is a fitting that fits on the head stay that has a groove in it that accommodates the genoa. In fact, something has gone wrong with the whole foil mechanism, releasing the genoa and then just blowing it back into the boat, because we saw them try to hoist a different genoa later on and the same problem. So indication to me as though the head foil has destroyed itself. But meantime, back on Alinghi.
Oh, it's just a testing drop.
They are going down leg number 2 towards the bottom mark.
Well, it was interesting. We heard Brad Butterworth say, unbelievable. This was a good boat race until then. But then suddenly it's heads down on Team New Zealand. They're heading home after not even completing the first leg of race 1 of the America's Cup.
Calibration.
But meanwhile, Alinghi here we can see dropped their spinnaker a while ago, and they're sailing the final 5 minutes downwind with just the genoa up. Quite smart in my opinion. They just don't need to push it. They can just sail around the racetrack with the mainsail only up if they wanted to. For them, it's all about sailing super safe so they don't break anything and just cruise around the track to go 1-8.
So an anti-climax early on in this race. And remember, leading into this race, one of the advantages that we suggested Alinghi would have was that they were match hard. They've been racing since October the 1st, and they knew how good they were. Team New Zealand have been out practicing, of course, but it's not the same thing, is it?
No, the boat gets loaded up more. You know, you just push the boat a little bit harder, and the Alinghi team now have been given race number 1 on a plate.
Just one boat in this race now, so it's a non-race. It's Alinghi who just need to sail to the finish conservatively. And while their minds not totally on the racing, and certainly discussing and wondering what went on board Alinghi, they're making their own assessment of the situation, I would imagine. But that's the scene on the race course.
Big header here.
Not many boats around, a lot of them following Team New Zealand back. And they have a big repair job to do. Not just materially either, I think physically and mentally it would have been a huge blow to them.
Well, this will be the resolve of the team to get it together, but the mechanics and the shore team are going to have a bit of work to do tonight to repair that boom, or I suspect they'll put a new boom on board the boat. There's a couple of Genoas that went up that the sailmakers will need to do thorough checks on to make sure they're okay. And I guess we're looking at a new head foil. But the one that still got me intrigued is why did the boat take so much water on board, and how much of that water went down below, maybe altering the characteristics or the stability of the boat. That could have sparked off the problem.
So natural drainage, Glenn, didn't appear to be working, did it?
No, the amount of water that was pouring in over the side deck as it sailed upwind, the venturis, the little devices on the side of the hull, which normally take care of that, just would not have been man enough for the job. And we saw a crewman there with a very large bucket, and they almost looked like they were ready for it. It makes me wonder if maybe they just know that the boat does ship a bit of water upwind in these conditions. But certainly I was absolutely shocked to see the volume that was coming in, and then we cut across to Alinghi, and their boat was bone dry, which is what you'd expect.
It's quite normal, Glenn, isn't it, to have a bit of water coming on board, and the self-bailers, the venturis will handle that. And if you get a couple of big nasty waves, yeah, you might have to buckle a little bit out, but it looked like they were bailing a bit more.
That's what you get when you never sail out in breeze with breeze.
Bit of comment there from on board Alinghi about the water problem.
Freezing all day. I got wet. I got wet, you know, straight away went on
the board Alinghi then. One of the crew saying they were sinking, so they could see what was going on. And it was interesting, off the line, the boats were really even. In fact, it looked like NZL 82 might have had a click of an edge. And then as we started to see that water pouring in over the side, Alinghi closed the game up, forced NZL 82 to tack away, and then of course had the boom breakage, had some failure.
You wait till next week if it blows from the north, you know. We haven't had anything like that yet. Where, you know, you get these real waves coming through. 80 knots from your east.
What's going to happen after that?
Well,
They're
Thursday.
sinking, they can't change what they're sinking.
Yeah, it's a great race.
That's one problem they have. I don't think they have more problems. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of discussion there.
Might be worse to come.
Duncan Schumann, and of course they're right. What they were talking about is if the wind changes and comes out of the northeast direction, the waves will be a lot bigger than they are today.
Because then you get two problems at the same time.
Murray Jones, one of the Alinghi crew members, who now have a relatively peaceful and certainly uneventful trip to the finish line on board Alinghi, race 1 of the America's Cup, which had a sensational first 20 minutes, and now all the sensation will be in the talk afterwards.
What's the bearing to it,
with Team New Zealand, and can they recover quickly to get back out on the water tomorrow?
I'm sure about that, John. And in terms of repairing the boat, that won't be a big problem. They've got a wonderful shore team along at Team New Zealand, as Alinghi have, I must say. And new boom, need to repair the forestay. I think the most serious thing I can see out there is to figure out the water problem.
While it is devastating to start the defence of the America's Cup in this way, that's why you have the best of 9. And if this boat we're looking at here is quicker, and they can solve the reliability, and there's enough smart people in that team that I'm sure it won't happen again, they can still win this event, absolutely. But Russell Coots and Ernesto Bertarelli there, Warwick Fleury. I mean, how could you not be smiling when you're cruising around the track to go one up?
Oh, yeah.
Well, in their position, you take the points whatever way they're presented to you, and although I'm sure they will feel a little bit for Team New Zealand, I'm more than happy to get race 1 tucked away.
Said through many America's Cups, Peter, it's not only about the design and the ability of the sailors, it's reliability, isn't it? And that's appears to be what's let Team New Zealand down here.
Okay, that's
but as PJ mentioned, how many times have they been out on the water sailing in close to 30 knots? Well, maybe everything was getting a bit fatigued after too much testing, but and this man might be quite instrumental in bringing them back on their feet too, Rob Waddell. Pumping them up again.
Absolutely, I think Rob will play a big part.
A day in the sun now for Alinghi, all standing to attention and looking relaxed. They just need to complete the course to go 1-0 up in the best of 9, first to 5 series. Let's just recap. The start was very even. Team New Zealand were looking quite good, but we noticed that there were some problems.
Well, you can see there how deep the mainsail is in the bottom, so the outhaul has failed, the end of the boom has snapped, and then the forestay failed, releasing the Genoa, the cap fitting broke, blowing the forestay out of head foil. One accident or one mechanical failure compounding on itself. Embark having to turn the boat downwind to enable the crew to get up on the foredeck to retrieve the Genoa.
Let's have a look at it again in slow motion, and Glenn, it was quite obvious the problems that they were having.
Absolutely. There we see it working on the end of the boom. And then all of a sudden another sail appears around to leeward of the mainsail that most certainly is not meant to be there. The headsail and that right-hand corner, as we look at it there, the bottom right-hand corner is meant to be connected to the bow, and just devastating for Team New Zealand. And Alinghi, meanwhile, of course, just sailing in a solitary fashion. And just look at how empty the Hurricane Gulf is. That enormous spectator fleet has vanished.
We often talk about the wonderful innovations that we've seen on especially on Team New Zealand from 2000, now 2003. But this is one of the projects that maybe hasn't quite worked right. It has failed on them. It's going to cost them this race.
Meanwhile, Team New Zealand heading back up the harbour past North Head, back towards the American Express Viaduct Harbour. The Loyal flag there, escorting them back.
Well, here we see on the run home now, Alinghi. And a nice, as it's turned out, a soft race for Alinghi.